two places. One is this fund's about 12 to 18 months old. So a lot of it's just appreciation. So it's appreciation or it's equity from at the time of purchase. Yeah, that's net equity is probably a better way to put it.
That's what folks call being lucky because you're doing things.
That's right. You got to do stuff.
You're being lucky. You're taking advantage of a appreciation tsunami because you are actually out there doing things, not waiting for the chance to be lucky.
This whole here's the deal. If you're spending your time, like, so we're doing this broadcast here, right? There's a couple networking events tonight. There were a couple last night, a couple night before that. And I always ask people, like, what are you doing at these events if you're not buying assets? If you're not raising money and buying assets, you're wasting your time. Now, you and I are doing this so we can attract agents and deals and money and all that. But 95, 99% of people out there are just wasting your time. And I'm watching this. I've watched a lot of businesses do well before COVID, and then I watched some fail in COVID. I watched some that were born and did well in COVID that are now struggling or failing. Mm-hmm. And through those three phases, the pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID world, the problems are all the same. It's sales and marketing. Are you closing deals? Are you consistently getting leads that you can convert to closings? And it's almost to the point where
and being able to change rapidly as your market's changing.
You got to change fast.
It's like McDonald's couldn't survive if they wanted to keep the same marketing strategy they had in the 80s when our parents were okay feeding us junk stuff and having our birthday parties at McDonald's. Yeah. You just don't do that now.
No, you can't. It's but it really does come down to are you producing action in the marketplace? Yeah. Not am I going to another networking event? Not am I hanging out with some investors at a happy hour? That's all bullshit. Like, are you really producing the action to get a deal, right? To get a new customer, to get a client. And it's one thing I'm just getting more and more hardcore with. It's like we had a meeting this morning. Granted, we're still scrambling, right? Like, we're still rehabbing places. We got 5 more properties under contract this week. In fact, I just got a text from one of our acquisitions guys. There's an 8-unit apartment complex that I got to look at before I go to the kids' soccer game and a happy hour I have tonight.
And this is out in Surfside?
No, this one's in Houston, I think. It's in Houston. Let me just tell them to draft the contract.
That should be your default answer, right?
It's always, let's just draft the contract.
Yeah,
conversation.
Right? Otherwise it's nothing. Without have people are like, hey, I don't know if they have clear title. I don't know what title company do that.
Let them do that.
Get it under contract. Otherwise you have nothing.
Yeah, you have nothing until you got that piece of paper. And I guess I can take personally. I mean, I'm like going through this entire transition phase here, and it's are you really working or are you not? Mm-hmm. Like, are you really doing the things to make your business successful? I see a lot of people playing entrepreneur, and I've noticed this in the last year, especially in the last couple of months. We've got people that are telling everyone they're investors. And when you look at their volume, like, I don't know how you guys are making ends meet.
It's flexing.
That's exactly
But it's sexy.
Oh, it is sexy.
HGTV made that. Social media made that. It's not that much different, I guess, than the engineer at Exxon who's probably doing really well, but also goes out and buys I'm not a car guy, you know this, like the latest Porsche.
Yeah.
Like, should they really be doing that? I don't know. I mean, maybe they have the balance sheet to do that, but when you read The Millionaire Next Door, probably not.
Yeah, those guys don't own that.
But it is flexing. You gotta. I saw.
The little joke with the Porsche guys is if someone corrects you and says, well, it's pronounced Porsche. Then you go, oh, that's cute. This must be your first line. That's the joke with all the Porsche guys.
Normally, actually, I would have said Porsche.
It's Porsche. I'm like, oh, that's cute. This is your first one.
You know what? If you want to get my jollies on a vehicle, I want a Ford F-250 King Ranch to Texas.
Ooh. King Ranch should technically be a Texas edition. obviously Texas, right?
Yeah.
Those are pretty sweet. I was looking at Lambos again last night. I joined this really interesting Facebook group where I had looked before COVID. I was like, well, let me go look. I won't buy new. Like exotic cars, you never buy new. Like that's a rule. Just because the guys typically buy them, baby them, they don't drive them enough, and they depreciate like a lot.
Yeah.
So Lambo looking at it's just under 300. You can pick up one 2 or 3 years old for about, before COVID, about 160, 165. Now they're up about 200,000 bucks. Part of it has to do with COVID, supply, demand, some other things. But every now and then I look. And usually in December I go do a bunch of test drives. We'll rent cars for the weekend. And then I come back to Houston. I'm like, I can't drive that car here. I'd leave half of the carbon fiber body out on the street.
Yeah. It's cheaper to rent them. I mean, if you want to sport it for the weekend or a week, it's cheaper to rent the thing.
Yes.
I mean, and that's...
a weekend.
No, I know Grant Cardone talks about all of that, but I've always thought that, like, if you want to get the hot bachelor pad, it's just cheaper to rent it for the weekend, for the week. The boat, like, boat, airplane, if you're going to be out there every single weekend in perpetuity, okay, you're probably going to get your money's worth if you buy it, but you're not.
How much was your tri-bike?
$1,200.
That's it?
Well, okay, $1,200 plus, it's probably $1,700 all in. I've got a little gadgets. So and
I'm surprised you look that cheap, man.
Well, come on, you don't know me. So yeah, that's a quality intro road bike that I converted to a tri-bike.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's I mean, I know people spend more on their tri-bikes than some people will do on used cars.
Oh yeah.
And it's sick. And then you look at them, they're
Yeah, it does. I'll tell you, it does make a difference.
Oh hell yeah, it does.
The way I'm justifying the expenses, how many hours I spent on that thing. What's I was out in Chelsea last night. We were over at 13, which is that new bar in Midtown. It's James Harden's place. Really good joint. Between the three of us, over an hour and a half, we spent with tip just under $200 just on drinks. So let's call it $100 an hour. So cut that in half, or even a third, $25 an hour. How many hours do you spend on your bike? When you start doing the math, you're like, man, just based off the time I spend, like it makes sense to get exactly what I want that fits in this budget.
Oh, absolutely. And if you want to go one step further, how much less pain you might have.
Oh, dude,
especially on the wheels. So when I finished the Ironman, and my goal was it was to survive it.
Yeah. So it was always just survive.
Well, it was that, but we also were scaling our business.
Yeah.
I joined a mastermind. And then I was like, hey, life's not hard enough. And I had a kid. And then life's not hard enough. Why don't I do an Ironman too? You're supposed to train 20, 25 hours at peak. I trained about 10 on average.
That's 25 hours a week.
A week, yes.
A week. It's a part-time job.
It's a part-time job on top of life. I trained about 10 hours a week. I don't recommend that to anyone.
That just makes the experience terrible.
But I was confident in my ability to endure pain for long periods of time. Yeah. And I remember walking my bike, so the next morning, waking up, everyone's kind of like waking up, bringing their gear back out, and seeing my, I don't know, it's like you've got your Oldsmobile. It looks good, it's clean,
yeah.
It runs great. And then that Porsche or that 5 Series rolls up right next to yours, and that's how I felt like some of these guys who, I mean, some of them just have the money, some of them do it for a living, but it's pretty impressive.
Well, what's always impressive on the endurance side is when you see a guy roll up on the Lambo and he's got the body to match it. You're like, this guy's gonna put it in. This dude's gonna set a course record. Like he's trying to set a course record today, right? Like, and that guy, I mean, it's not only the money, but it's everything's dialed in, right? And you really admire that, and that's really where we want to get to in our business. When someone walks in, when my chick came in today, went to college together, grad school, been buddies for, when did I graduate? 09, so we've been buds for 12, 13 years. And he's involved in the real estate center, and he hadn't seen it yet. He works for an oil and gas company out. let's just say out of country. And he walked it today. He said, Jake, he was grinning ear to ear. He goes, this place is crazy.
Yeah.
He said, like pictures and videos just don't give it justice. And I always have this mindset of, you always want to be that guy. You got the sleek machine, you got everything to match. You walk in and you just go, holy crap. Like, this is what success is going to look like.
Yeah. Well, it's the personal brand, and I guess it's like walking into a house. When you walk into a model home, your experience is it's the same throughout.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, they've got professionals that do that. So it's not like some people, whether it's their own build or it's just happen chance, like it's a mix match.
Yeah.
And you're talking about having that personal brand, but that really being a reflection of their personal success and their professional success. Versus you bought the Lambo, but you're broke.
Well, even, it's so funny. It's like, the guys that I work with, the Lambo's a turn. They walk up and they see a Lambo, like, what is this guy doing? They know how much we weigh. We talk about it. They see what we're making on our funds. I just told you how much we made last year just out of that small fund, not being our syndications. So you got the Lambo and all that nonsense. They look at that and they go, the guys I raise money in front of, the same guys you raise money from, right? Pull up the Lambo and they're like, maybe in another year or two, but still there's that, like, what is this guy doing with our money? Right? That's always that connotation, right?
Because that's the millionaire next door. Who's the millionaire? It's the blue-collar worker who has a nice auto shop and he just built it over the years. Or the guy who's made $1.25 with 5% raises for the last 20 years, and he's lived off 87.
One of the most crazy stats I read in The Millionaire Next Door is it was something like 70 or 80% of millionaires never made more than $90,000 a year.
That's why. So have you played the cash flow game? The Rich Dad?
Not. We're gonna do it at the center sometime.
Yeah, well, let's do it. So at A&M, I had a cash flow club, and we'd all get together and play it. And
you were a cool guy in college.
I was fly. Me and my cargo pants and Abercrombie shirts. So, but the easiest one, you get to pick a profession.
Yeah.
And the easiest profession to beat the game to get out of the rat race is the janitor. You make no money.
Yeah.
But you also have no expenses.
Yeah.
The hardest one is the doctor and the lawyer, where you've got the high mortgage, you college debt, and all that.
It's funny in that book, and I am going to write a companion to that book at some point. And they talk about, they say it covertly, but this is what Dr. Stanley says. The number one mitigating factor on whether or not you're able to build wealth is the neighborhood you live in. So if you go live in a higher end neighborhood and your income doesn't match, but you can still afford the house, you are naturally going to want to keep up with everybody else in the neighborhood.
Keep up with the Joneses.
Right. So a buddy of mine just wrote a book, and I read it, and everybody knows I'm a big fan of Aaron Clarey. He just wrote a book on what it's calling the Book of Numbers, the cost of the pursuit of women. And he's an economist, and he had a buddy of his who is an actuary. So he wrote. No one's ever written a book on what it costs to be in relationships, and we know that putting the wrong people in your life will absolutely destroy it.
It's cancer.
It's an absolute cancer. And the worst person you can have in your life, the one that has the most impact, is the one that sleeps next to you in the evening, right? So they actually sat down and broke it all down. It is absolutely amazing. They're going to build and they took it from the men's perspective. At some point, they're going to do the women's kind of side of the book. But
and you can do it on the flip side. That also, for some people, is the best asset they have.
Yeah, but statistically, it's not.
Well, I mean, we're broken. I mean, you look at divorce rate, and a lot of that's probably just we're humans are all selfish.
There's a component of that. I'll get back to that here in a minute. But this is some of the stuff we're going to talk about in the Real Estate After Dark show. But for real estate, what's fascinating is you look at the Millionaire Next Door and what you and I know about real estate. Men typically don't pick the houses, women do. So if you don't have the right mindset in your relationship, you end up in a doctor-lawyer situation where you have to keep up with the Joneses. You end up in this house that, it's a nice neighborhood. We could have maybe gotten a more conservative house and saved more money. But there are some drivers. They're not all women. You don't get me wrong. It's men and women and all that stuff. but it's a huge driver. So lately I've been on this search of what are the real drivers of wealth and happiness in the United States. It's been just a fun study. It'll be a book that comes out, I don't know, 22, 23. Like I'm keeping all my notes, writing all this stuff. So,
All right.
but it's stuff like that is becoming, I think, once you figure out the success formula. Well, I'll give you a good example. I was in, whose seminar was it? Who's the godfather of real estate? Ron LeGrand.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I'm sitting in this Ron LeGrand seminar.
Wasn't he at Tim Mai's event? Did he
Was
come out?
Oh, I don't know.
I know Tim Mai got some legends come out of this thing in Key West the other day.
So Ron LeGrand said something fascinating at some seminar I was at. And he was talking about, your worst enemies and people who fill you with doubt, like your quote haters, if you will.
Yeah.
And he said, what's amazing? A lot of those people share your last name. And I thought, I just looked around, I was like, and then I thought, oh my God, he's right.
Share your last name.
Your biggest haters are some of those that share your last name.
All right.
Meaning every family member's your spouse. That's what
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
So,
Elaborate on that, as I have some thoughts.
Okay, so let me give you let me explain it this way. We know this to be true. Problem is nobody wants to acknowledge it. We know this to be true. This is how we deal with our mastermind. We have your spouse come in, and we meet with both of y'all before you write us a check and join our mastermind. Mm-hmm. Because if your spouse is on board, you can't be in our group.
If your spouse is not on board?
Not on board.
Yeah,
you can't get in a group.
Oh, yeah, it's a recipe for
I don't
disaster.
care how much money you have. So when we start looking at like the millionaire next door, and we start looking at relationships and happiness and all that, where does all that stuff coincide? Mm-hmm. And the challenge there is you have to endure and embrace some really uncomfortable truths. And it's one of those kind of lessons I've been going through over the last like year and a half, 2 years now. Especially as it relates to business and all that. So there's this interesting intersection that's happening there. So I don't want to say that your lack of success or 100% of your success is related to the folks that you keep around you, but it certainly has a huge, significant impact, right? So when Stanley wrote that, I'll never forget when he wrote that in his book, that the house you live in is the biggest factor in how much wealth you create.
Of course.
My next thought was, well, who selects houses? And of course, you and I both know flipping enough houses. Like, we don't buy houses.
It can go both ways, but yeah, no, absolutely. By and large, percentage. I mean, I had cruises, and it was interesting. A lot of women planned that too. Yeah. They planned the family vacation. It's probably 60-40, maybe even a little bit higher than that.
Now that's very interesting. So now let's go back to, this is where you start we know the truth is here. But we bounce around it because it gets really awkward. It gets really uncomfortable. Jim Rohn, one of the things he says is we spend more time planning our vacations than we do our life.
Yep.
We spend more time...
Well, because what do? We work.
Right.
Okay. Direct quote from a guy who lived the workaholic, but when he was on vacation, he was a baller.
Yeah.
Like, he lived like a king. He specifically says, I'll work 18-hour days to live like a king for 2 weeks a year.
Yeah.
Foolish. But made him happy. I mean, he'll do that.
Can I get a hard car?
I'm looking at club and, like, chips and salsa. Yeah. By the time you come back, I'll probably want one. Yeah, it's good. So where I was going before, when you're talking about the same last name, a lot of that probably comes from sincere love. Like, they actually scared because they know you when you were a kid. They know you when you were that kid that was running around, like, causing all kinds of ruckus or whatever.
Sure.
So there's that. Like, hey, I don't know, maybe you should just become a doctor. And then the other part of it is they don't want you to do something that they themselves can't do mentally. So it's that crab pulling the other crab back in the bucket.
Right.
So there's kind of that balance. But at the end of the day, I mean, you take Gary Vee's approach where it's like, F you. Like, that's what I want. I'm going to do it. It's my life. I love you. But
it's I was reminded this week that I'm writing the email right now. So we've been talking about for about 6 or 8 months now, starting a show called Real Estate After Dark, and we've had to push it back and push
Is this
it back.
because you want another show so you can drink beer?
Yeah, well, it's going to be all right. So I'll tell you where it came from. Rob actually came up with the show idea. He said, "Have you ever seen Playboy After Dark?" And I'm like, "No, what's that?" So it took place over 2 or 3 years, and it was like a variety show. So they would have like musicians.
You want some? Yeah.
It was kind of like a real upscale like Tonight Show. Like they would interview musicians and famous folks and thought leaders, and politicians, and all that.
Playboy.
This is when Playboy wasn't considered porn. So before the whole Supreme Court thing with Hustler and Michael Flynn and all that other nonsense. Anyways, so which by the way, did you see that strip club that came up in the Houston Real Estate Investor Group? I sent the guy a note. He hadn't sent me one back. Very interesting. Anyway, I'm not saying we're getting into that business, but I thought it was interesting. I've actually looked at a couple of those business models before, just out of professional curiosity as a business guy.
What, to start your own Colorado or?
No, it's interesting. You know, it really is. It's I'm very. I think in order to learn how to critically think, I think you have to take your emotions and your biases out of things and say, well, I don't know, why do people do this? Why is this a business people are willing to do, right? Then you add in all of your biases and all that stuff. I wouldn't want to own them, but I'm just saying it's just a good. You gotta step out of your own box every now and then to have that.
No, I do, and I had an amazing business idea that to this day I think would be killer, and it probably already exists somewhere, but I could never own it as a Christian. You got Hooters is popular, and there's lots of copycat or similar type, sports bars. But if you had a driving range, a Top Golf, that was also kind of like a Hooters.
Oh yeah.
Again, I would never own that. As a college kid, young and dumb, I thought of that idea, and here it is on live stream.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Brian and I actually have a pretty good one. I won't talk about it here because we may actually do it. It'll be pretty entertaining, but I don't think. I don't want to go down this track. It's a very there's some really interesting businesses out there, especially post-COVID in this space. But to go back to the issue that we're talking about, it's like your level of success is directly related to the people you have around you and what you've done over the last 6 months.
Absolutely.
So when I see these businesses doing this, I'm like, it just tells me what you did 6 months before. And I gotta tell you, I'm really proud of Rob and the rest of the guys on our team because I'm watching this whole thing come together. Like in the last 6 months, we've been just working. I'm sitting in the construction meetings now.
You have been harder to get a hold of.
I'm a little harder to get a hold of, yeah. So it's all starting to come together, and now we want to take these real estate centers and put 15 across the country. I had Daryl Dyke was over at the office today. He's looking at putting his office in a different spot in the building, and one of the things he said was, I had him on the radio, and he said, "Man, he's like." He said, "There's not very many spaces left here. This is crazy, and we're not even officially open yet."
I was surprised by that too when I walked by and saw some of the names you got on in there. But hey, so drop your grand opening party.
Grand opening is June the
9th, I think, right? Come on.
Hold on, let me look. June the something.
June 9th, and I heard you have U2 coming out.
U2 will be there.
ZZ Top. Mattress Mac's going to do the intro.
Robert Plant is going to come out and play us a couple of bars, a couple of strings. Is it a Wednesday?
George W. is going to do the ribbon cutting.
Oh my gosh, please tell me it's not June. Is it really June 9th, guys? I'm going to be on a canoe trip. I'll be in Canada. Are you serious?
I think that just got canceled.
I thought it was June. Is it not June 5th?
No, hey, we did an event over there. And Connor was walking through. He's like, "Man, this place is amazing. He goes, you know, that's a great center to start doing some more live events, especially for agents and educating agents and training. So he's like, yeah, no one's gonna be able to touch this.
I'll tell you what, right now, man, we're gonna build. I'm looking at Vegas right now. We found 5 or 6 buildings we like. Rob and I are going to SoCal in August. We're gonna get one.
So the pandemic's caused a model home. I talked to you 2 days ago. They said the model home went up $65,000 since this time last year. Just a model home.
Yep.
In Houston, historically a low appreciation city state. What does that look like in Vegas, Orange Beach?
It's crazy.
And you really want to buy into that?
Oh yeah. It's not going to stop. Like I can run the model. I can see what's going on.
So they can go 50% in months.
Okay. Then I just go. So you know what? The joke Rob and I had for years was when the market crashes, I'm not going to be here in Texas. Like everybody needs to really understand this. A real estate market crash in Texas is not sexy. It doesn't fall enough. You know what Rob and I are going to do? We're going to go to California. We're going to buy every damn piece of real estate we get our hand. That market.
That's what our people are doing in New York right now.
Yeah, but that hasn't even fallen that much. Like look at leases. Like leases in Manhattan were getting crushed, and they only lost 16%. Like it's not even that bad. They shut New York down for a year. It's not even that bad.
Well, 16% of like a $20 million, 15-unit apartment complex is probably.
I mean, but
they can only do what their property taxes are.
no, it's not really a crash. I mean, so to go back to the building. So after I was chatting with you and Connor on Friday, I'm like, all right. So I told Rob, like, it's time to get this thing really going. I pulled in all my other email lists over the weekend because I don't use. A lot of folks don't know this. We've not really, since Rob and I have been partners, we've not really fired up the marketing machine yet. Like you guys see a lot of stuff, but this is a fraction of what's coming.
I'd agree.
And part of it is we just don't have the infrastructure to support the sales side. So I told him Friday, I said, all right, it's time to get this thing going. My email list hovers around 30 to 40,000, but I've got access to much larger databases.
Do you hit that email list once a week?
Oh, daily. I hit it daily.
I don't think I'm on it.
You must not be on it. So
I probably opted out. No.
that's fine. So I pulled in the rest of our stuff, we'll put it that way. I'm at 110,000 as of this morning. And that doesn't include all my Dallas, Austin, San Antonio contacts. Or SoCal, or New York and New Jersey.
You doing texting?
Not yet.
Texting, here's where it's at.
I know you gotta be real careful though.
It's definitely more sensitive, and you gotta opt in and have an easy way to opt out. But I mean, the response rate and engagement rate is.
Oh, it's pretty good.
I mean, that'll get destroyed too, like email did.
Yeah.
At some point, but.
All marketers destroy everything, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's the evolution. Is when you're on the front end, if you were doing email in the '90s, where we were all opening every single email, like that's how Russell Brunson built his business, and a lot of these digital marketers built their business off email, and then that gets changed, and you always move on to something else.
Well, and here's what's interesting is the marketing space right now is so diffuse. Like we have all these different social media platforms. We got people consume people consume memes all the way up to long form content. You watch Joe Rogan for 4 hours with Elon Musk, right? Smoking weed.
Yeah, I'll have another block.
So the job for us as marketers, and this is what marketing people traditionally always get bad at, is creating enough content. That's why we're always just great content.
But it's more than just content. So content 5 years ago is Happy Columbus Day.
Oh yeah.
Merry Christmas. Content now is this is how you buy a house and not lose your ass for a flip.
Yeah.
And it's detailed, deep content,
Uh-huh.
and it's free. Because when you have folks, let's go traditional real estate agents. Look at like Ricky Caruth. For the past, I don't know when he started doing this, but at least the past couple of years, he's put out content at scale. And to my knowledge, he may have like some personal coaching thing, but to my knowledge, he doesn't have any opt-in like paywall. It's all free. And he gives some deep content. He's got a massive following. Massive following. I don't know, he's got 80-something thousand followers on YouTube. Quite a bit on TikTok and all this stuff. It's all free. All free. Now, if you want to charge, you can. But, I mean, are you going to give more value than him for free? I don't know.
And that's where things get interesting, because he's first to market, right? So then you start modeling that. And the other part of this is it's content, but it's also content you can't get anywhere else. So one of the things we figured out early on when Tom and I were still together in BrightPath is we couldn't build another lifestyle fortune builders Kiyosaki, because first of all, some of those messages, well, let me put it this way, those messages don't work for all people. That was the first thing we recognized.
You're meaning their pitch, the lifestyles pitch, isn't gonna, it's not gonna convert someone. So
you can't assume that pitch works for everyone.
Correct.
Right? So let me put it this way. You first have to start with this. Real estate may not be for you. I think that's an honest question, right? Or not a statement. Real estate may not be for you. In fact, I would even argue this. Small business ownership may not be for you. Only 10% of Americans are cut out for entrepreneurship. Which, now this is where stats get really interesting. This is why 90% of businesses fail 3 years or less.
10%, I mean, just playing with that number, yet 45% claim to be entrepreneurs.
That's right. You're not.
At least until 36 months go by, things suck. The 18-hour days aren't like, they're not quite fun anymore, because you have 5 employees that you have to feed, and one of your biggest clients decided to bail, and now one of your employees decided to be your competitor.
So, you know how I know if someone is going to fail in this business or any business? 2 things that happen. You pay yourself a salary in the first 2 years, and you're taking vacations. If you're doing any of those 2 things, you're not going to survive long.
That's what they call it, a young man's game. It's hard to do when you have a family, kids. Not impossible, but there's a cost.
There's a huge cost. Well, and that actually goes back. We can actually go back to the relationship side. The cost is sacrifice, and that sacrifice is translated to investment. If you're not investing in a relationship through sacrifice, it's not going to last. That's no different in business than it is in interpersonal relationships, right? At some point, we have boundaries. We're crossing this boundary. We can't do this, right? It's no different in business. We can't take a salary. We can't take vacations. Not from a money standpoint, but it's a time and effort. You and I talked in the last podcast. We were talking about marketing, right? You said one of the things you recognized is you've got to get a big enough marketing budget over a consistent period of time where you can say, oh, this isn't. Now, is because something doesn't work because it just doesn't work, or do I have enough relevant data to say, okay, we need to change it to do this and this? And most people never get that.
You could be doing it wrong.
Yeah, but most people don't have enough experience in that marketing exchange to be able to say, we got to do this instead of this. So, and again, you can relate that to a lot of things in life. Right? It's like if you don't have enough of these observations to draw from a statistics background, we don't have any observations, we don't know how to change. If we don't have any boundaries, we don't know where to we don't know where success is. Probably a better way to put it. So I watch these businesses, and I've watched a ton of them over the years, where I'm like, oh, they're taking a salary, they're doing this, they're doing that. Like they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it 5 years. You know, they'll stumble along. You'll show up at the real estate events. They'll tell everybody how successful they are, and this is what we do, and all that. And you're like, you start looking at the books, you start looking at the deal volume. Like they're not going to make it. Like there's just not enough. There's not enough action. There's not enough horsepower, right? You got to push through. And if you're doing those things, it's like they're just not there.
Yeah, push through. I've talked to you about this before. There's that intro phase.
Yep.
Solopreneur. For a lot of folks, it ends up being solopreneur. Maybe you got 1 or 2 assistants.
Or it's two business partners or something like that.
Yeah, it could be a husband, wife team, business partners. But then you gotta hire. Usually it's 1 or 2 assistants. But then there's that next phase. You're trying to scale. You got your proof of concept. Now you need to make a couple key hires, whether it's a dedicated sales rep or a office manager. At that point, things get real. There was a book I was reading. I don't remember what Profit First or one of those books. Yeah. I call it the death zone.
Yeah. Where
you make this next decision, you're in the red.
That's right.
You're in the red. It's a plane going down the runway. Or a plane about to take off. You have not caught flight yet. And there's a cliff.
Yeah.
There's a
and
cliff.
You're like, woo!
and you have a choice where you have to scale, and you gotta do it properly, then you soar.
Yeah.
And you'll have new problems and all that. But
you better do it before you hit the other side of the canyon.
Yeah. Or you have to pull back. You gotta stop the airplane, regroup, try again.
So A-Rock over here, part-time at 19 until January this year, made more than I did. I don't know if you knew that. Because Rob and I were getting 0 out of all the companies.
All right, good negotiations on the salary.
So, but now we're hiring, like we've got to hire essentially a CFO, and they start at 6 figures, right? So, which truth be told, probably that person's made more than me now anyway. But you've got to start making like what I like to call adult hires. You can't, I need to hire a VA. It's going to be my CFO. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No.
They're over, our real estate portfolio is over 30 million. Like, you're going to hire a VA for $9 an hour, whatever the hell they're calling, whatever they're hiring a VA for, $2 an hour to be CFO. I'm like, our bookkeeper has a master's in mathematics. Like, she's probably legitimately, between her and Catherine, smart.
Well, so what you're doing, do you want to hire for a task to get completed, or do you want to hire for leadership?
No, I don't want to hire for either one. Here's the challenge in hiring. I actually got lectured by somebody about hiring the other day, which I thought was hilarious. Because then I asked, well, how many people have you ever hired? I'm like, oh, all right, 2. I'm like, okay. What I actually hire for is what we call professional curiosity. You cannot train for it. You cannot teach people how to do it. A-Rock has it. A-Rock has professional curiosity. How does this work? How do we make this better? Why don't we do this instead of this? You can't train for that. You can't embed it in a culture. It's inside you or it's not. So I can take anybody. If they've got professional curiosity and they have a competent skill set in something, they go,
so hey, I translate that. That's the hunger to succeed at your skill set. Or the thirst for knowledge on how this works, how it can be better, and being able to think outside the box, but also own the position.
I think that's what it's ownership is part of it.
Yeah.
But it takes it a step further when they sit back and they go, I think we can do it this way or this way. And you go, that's a damn good idea. I go do it. And there's on the leadership side, you're in constant conflict with yourself on like, how do I build a culture to do that? Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people can't do that. So you may build a culture, and you still need those people in an organization, right? You need the taskmasters, you need the good employees that just kind of chuck on. But you've got to have a certain number of these like professionally curious kind of thought leaders in their position. You can't hire a whole organization for it. And I've not cracked the secret formula on it. I mean, neither has Rob. I've worked in a lot of organizations. We'd love to have figured it out, but it's just something endemic in folks, and it's really hard to test for. You don't see it until you start working with somebody. So,
what's fascinating? So, have you ever listened to the podcast Masters of Scale? So, Reid Hoffman, one of the founders of PayPal, Masters of Scale. Now, that podcast is one of the most professionally ran, designed from a entertaining and content performance. Amazing. So, go back day one. They're doing the Google founders, Facebook founders. You got Sheryl Sandberg and Zuckerberg and all that. But anyway, what I've always found really fascinating with some of the tech is how they've gone from one, usually the one tech guru, to a short amount of time. It boggles my mind. One, because I'm not a good manager. We've done that. Horrible manager. I guess if you use the EOS thing, I'm more the visionary. I would love to get to the point where I can hire an implementer.
Yeah.
But how these companies have gone from one to like 1,500 employees in 48 months. It's just mind-numbing on how they do that.
Well, here's what it is. They're not taking salaries, they're not taking vacations.
It could be that where
you're literally showering at the office, and
we're in Silicon Valley, and everyone that goes to Stanford just wants to work for you for.
Yeah, but you still got to organize all that talent.
Well, correct. You have to organize. Well, you have to organize the labor.
Yeah.
You have to organize the output.
Right. But it's one of these, like, this is why I'm telling you, I watch businesses fail all the time for those two reasons. We got to start taking a salary, and boy, isn't it great when you take vacations and put photos on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm like, I ain't gonna make it. There's not enough output. Like, there's a reason. Let me give you a good example. Elon says it this way. Elon Musk says it this way. If everybody else is working 40 hours a week and I'm working 60, I'm already ahead. When we started Houston House Buyers back in the day, I could have done it part-time at 25 to 30 hours a week.
You made a good living.
Or I could go in full-time at 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and we would fail faster. However, I also knew I was putting in more time than the guys that were running marketing programs at Homevestors. They're 40-hour-a-week people. I'm 80-hour-a-week. So I can out-market those guys simply because I have more time. So what a lot of people miss when they're dealing in a competitive marketplace, and real estate's dealing, you just put in more time, you learn faster.
And learn how to enjoy it.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Because if you hate it, like, you're going to hit that brick wall.
Yeah.
And once you hit that brick wall, there's no deal that's going to make you get up and get out of bed. I mean, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. That's not for everyone, but I enjoy it. I actually look forward to, hey, I've got video transcriptions I need to make sure that I get out.
What time do you go to bed? Like in 10 minutes or what?
No. I go to bed 10. 6-7 hours, I'm solid.
Okay.
If I get less than 6, I can manage that for a couple days, but it gets a little rough.
So Jamie go to bed at the same time and all that stuff, or no? 'Cause you guys got the kids and all that. So
yeah, she sleeps in a little bit longer. She's usually probably asleep 10:30. Falling asleep to the office.
Okay. No, somebody's got to kind of do that, right?
Yeah. Hey, that worked out great with kids because I'm the early bird, so.
Oh yeah, you're feeding them, and
I didn't have to deal with the midnight stuff. She didn't have to deal with the 4 a.m. stuff, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm watching. So I'm going to share this on the podcast. A lot of folks don't know this. We're investors in other businesses around town that are in real estate. So I get
investment companies, or like we're talking title, insurance,
all the above. I didn't realize how many entities we own until we were doing taxes. I just happened to walk in the office when we were chatting with our CPA. We have over 50 entities. I had no idea. Now, those entities actually own, they're a pass-through, where they own other entities that we don't own, but we have investments in those entities.
Right.
But I chat with these folks from time to time, so I get an idea of what the marketplace looks like and what other people are doing, just because I can see the deal volume. And then on top of that, we've got investors that are in our mastermind that are in syndications all over the country. So this guru over here, who's got the Lambo, and this guru over here that's flying the G5, like, I know what their books look like because I've got the guys that are in my group that are invested in all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what's been fun over the last year or so is when somebody says, no question, I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
So that's, and this is why, if I really have a question on the Houston market, who's the number one person to ask?
This guy right here.
Well, it's you. I mean,
or Eddie.
Eddie.
Yeah.
I'll ask Alex. They're loaning the money.
Oh, yeah.
Or Daryl Dykes, another one.
Daryl's
but
a good one,
I happen to know Eddie very well. I'm like, hey, or Alex. I'm like, hey, what's going on with your loans? What are y'all seeing?
Yeah.
So when COVID was all that was happening, I was like, what are y'all seeing?
Yeah.
They were still doing really well.
Oh, yeah. I got the top. So now I'm a commercial real. I'm an adult now. I'm a commercial real estate investor, right? I guess I'm supposed to be wearing.
You've upgraded.
I got to be wearing one of my custom suits and all that crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm in my Lambo town. But anyway, so now that I'm a commercial owner and own a handful of commercial properties, I'm starting to get all that stuff too. So I'm getting to know all the brokers and other investors and owners.
It's a handful. I know you've got your real estate center.
Got the real estate center, self-storage facility, a bunch of apartment complexes.
What's the unit count on apartments?
I have no idea.
We're talking 50, 125.
No, like the biggest one we have? I don't know. It can't be more than 20. I'm embarrassed. I don't even know.
Right,
We're actually flipping an apartment complex right now, which is kind of fun. I really don't know. Our self-storage is 128 units.
You could flip an apartment complex right now by taking out the trash.
Dude, you know what I'm doing right now? So one of the guys on our map brought this to us and said, hey, would you help me do it? And we were like, yeah, you want to partner up on it? He goes, okay, cool. So we're talking on the phone. I was at the beach or something. Taking a vacation, which I probably shouldn't have. Anyway, no, I was probably down at Surfside. So I'm like, well, send me the address. So I look at this thing and I'm like, you know what we can do? I think we could buy this, subdivide it, and then keep a couple of these things free here. So we bought essentially like, the way Ashley explained it to me, it's an undeveloped, Ashley patent over patent law firm, by the way, patent title services, the patent title company, right? So he says this is an undivided or something neighborhood. It's technically in the city of Houston as a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's a bunch of triplexes. So we bought it, we're rehabbing it, and we're spinning off each one of the triplexes.
That's the big play. So I get those deals all the time where it's a junker, and they've got a couple other junkers, and they're all together. And now this is an apartment complex or a multifamily. And I look at them initially. This is just my quick look. One, overpriced. Two, it's a piece of junk with a whole bunch of junk on it. But the bigger value is repurposing, and that's essentially what you've done. What's the highest and best use for the property? And I like that. And with a low inventory market you're in, it's not. I mean, if you can solve that problem, you can bank.
Well, to go back to highest and best use, I've not said this publicly. We bought the real estate center, the Texas Real Estate Investment Center, because in 5 years the land's going to be worth more than anything else. Someone's going to go in and buy it and build a tower on it.
Yeah,
it's over an acre. So it's, you gotta have, I will agree with this. A lot of gurus say this.
It's over an acre?
Huh?
It's over an acre?
Over an acre.
Is it, do you have any unused, or is it all
no, it's all that, like parking lot and everything else.
Yeah,
we got to pretty much square it out.
Yeah. Which you need is there any parking that you could section off, or is it all allocated properly for the...
No, you got to sell all of it. So it's not like we partial off board of it and sell it. What you mean?
Yeah, because there's so many units you need per like square foot of office space.
Yeah, so it's I can't remember, one of you commercial guys, how many parking spots per square foot, per 1,000 square feet?
Because I had this idea of me and another guy. He's multi-family syndicator now. But we built this whole pitch deck on an automated grocery store, where literally you drive up. This is
Amazon,
pre-Amazon, pre all that stuff. So we built this whole pitch deck, and I mean Amazon was around, but they weren't. They have not bought Whole Foods yet.
Yeah,
and
they will.
Where it was basically you drive in and like you literally have ordered it in 10 minutes. It's ready. Drive through. And I remember talking with some commercial investors. I don't know anything about commercial. And he goes, I don't care what you build for the facility, the city ordinances are going to have that requirement on how many parking spots. So, okay, well, I mean, I get it. Makes sense. But literally, we finished this whole pitch deck, and we're going to, like, upload it to a tech accommodator. Yeah. And Amazon comes out with a promo video of, like, 95% of the same model. I'm like, all right, we're out.
So here's the other thing that's fascinating, is everyone thinks their idea is something new, right? And like, your ain't idea anything new, right? Somebody else has thought of it.
Well, yeah, because it's not the idea, it's the action.
Right, you got to implement it. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, "They're the most creative minds are in a graveyard. The best ideas are now in a graveyard."
Right. Hey, I'll throw myself here. I thought of Amazon. Probably 10 years old. I'm like, hey, everything's gonna be sold online. How can I come up with an e-store.com?
Yeah.
I don't know how to code. I'm 10 years old. Hey, pictures are going to be digital. There's going to be like this little flip screen that's going to change through, and you don't have to actually print just one picture that can never change. There are a couple others, but
you know, it's a good point. It's kind of like, you know, Amazon was not the first one to sell books online.
YouTube is not the first. What was it? Was Vimeo? Vimeo was first, right?
It may have been.
Or one other. YouTube just made it easier.
That's right.
Well, they made it shareable.
Well, when Google steps in, I mean, that's.
I mean, what was it? How much did they pay? You said $2 billion or something for it.
Which is nothing.
It was astronomical at the time, though.
Which is nothing, right? YouTube being the second largest search engine now on the internet, right?
And
like,
do you know how YouTube started?
No.
It was a dating.
Oh no!
It was dating. They're out there pushing like this whole. You can upload like this video yourself. I don't know. They were going to do some dating service, and it just was not catching. But they noticed that these little funny videos that people were uploading were going viral, so they changed they pivoted, and then the rest is history.
Part and parcel of that, we can bring it back to the relationship side. You know what the largest dating app in the country is, and actually in the world? Instagram.
Yeah, I get it. But hey, you have the filter to combat.
No. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I need to keep working on my Instagram because it's just, you just get this random stuff from folks. Hey, heard you're single, and you're like, who the hell are you? So,
well, Instagram doesn't have that status, right? So they heard it from other sources.
No. What happened? I can tell you, as a recently single guy.
Or are you hashtag? Are you already trending?
No. As a recently single guy and a formerly married guy, you just start getting hit up.
You've had lurkers for years.
I had what? What'd you say?
You had lurkers for years.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the reality of the sexual marketplace. But it's, you know, it's funny. Like,
where's my club sandwich?
I don't know. I don't think she heard you that you ordered it. Ooh, I gotta be down.
I had 5 events today.
No kidding.
Podcast early in the morning. That was 20 minutes. Had to look at a house. Quest at noon.
Are they doing physical meetings now?
I had a club. I don't know if it got ordered or not, but the chips came out in 5 minutes. The club is yet to be found.
Which sandwich, please?
Just a club.
We don't have a club sandwich, sir.
What do you got? I thought I saw on the menu. I just need a good sandwich.
How about the Ryan Express? It's got corned beef, an onion ring, queso, mushrooms.
Cuban's what I was.
You want to do the Cuban?
Yeah, let's do the Cuban.
I'll get another hard card.
Yeah, it's I realized I booked all these things, and I'm like, it's gonna be a quick day, but it's been pretty good.
Dude, my day has been bananas, like just insane. So, and it's not going to end till I can already tell it's not going to hit until 10 o'clock.
Why haven't you gotten into syndication for multifamily?
No, we have. Yeah, we got 3 or 4. We have 2 left right now.
Are you a 506B?
Yeah. So I've got a fund, and then I've got 2 syndications to raise money for. No, one of them is closed, I think. Now, we've not gone out. Brian and I were having this conversation. Actually, you know who I had this combo with last week was Steve Davis. Steve was like, Jason, you need to go out there and smoke a 500 unit. Just go, knock it out. And I was like, that's not a bad idea. So it'd probably be a 40 to $52 million deal, probably a $12, $13 million rate. Like you'd be really good at you ought to. That'll take your kind of career to the next level. He and I are actually going to do a little happy hour on Monday, but I'm like, that's not a bad idea. Probably do it.
I've got $3 million sitting on the sidelines.
Oh,
between I mean, so we used to flip.
Yeah.
We're doing our holds, and now we've got our investors like literally, hey, I've got X. Hey, I've got X. I got
yeah,
one.
but what do they want for X?
So I've got a couple at 6%, 30 years.
Well, then just go find any house that cash flows, buy them all at retail.
But I can't buy retail.
Yeah, buy retail. Well, here's the problem.
But I would, if I'm going to buy retail, if I'm going to buy retail, I'm going to pay for an apartment complex.
Because your retail and single family is going to be better.
It will, and it's definitely more liquid. And I have told people for the past 2 years, you can buy in Houston, most Texas markets, a single family subdivision, 3-2, 4-2, full retail, sub 200, sub 225, full retail. Long term, you're good.
Yeah.
You have to put money down.
Yeah.
Long term, you're solid.
Well, I go to my investor and say, hey, look, here's the deal. We set up I don't know how much you want to give away here. Here's what I'll tell you. If it cash flows, buy it. Share a part of that equity.
But cash flow, that's determined on what you want to put down. So if you have a lot of, that's why foreign money can come here and pay cash for a house in Sugar Land that's going to be $275,000 because they're okay with a 5% cap rate.
That's what you tell these guys. You want a 6% yield, I can put it all to work today. Because here's the deal. The median home price in Houston is appreciating 20% a year.
Well, you're judging 2020 to 2021?
I think that's low. It's only going to accelerate. We've got sky-high demand and no supply. And as states begin to open up,
I think it's going to decelerate.
I don't think so.
So 2020, 2021, probably historic appreciation. We'll see what the numbers end up being. I'm going on the record, at least in Houston, over the last probably 20, 30 years, probably historic appreciation. Now, but it has to hit. I do not think there's a bubble, for the record. The whole bubble talk, I think, is...
Bubble's stupid.
I think it's funny. You don't get a bubble when you have 55% of the market disappear.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Like, if they all came back tomorrow, you could have a temporary one, but it's not. And then on top of that, you get commodity prices. But I think the pricing is going to start hitting this threshold where, so the model home lady, she was telling me, it's like, hey, now that we're over 500,000 on this model home, like, we're in a new buyer pool and it's harder to sell them. Now, that's not stopping them from selling them.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I went to Bridgelands, I do these video walkthrough tours, and 3 builders had signs on the model, sold out. Like, they're waiting for more land to get dirt so they can build. And then I'm sure they've got their own labor problems. But I think appreciation is going to be high. I don't know that if it can go higher than what it currently is longer than maybe another 9-12 months. I think it has to level off, and even if appreciation decreases, you're far ahead 2018, 2019, 2017.
I don't know, I keep asking the same question, like, why would appreciation stop?
When it will stop,
or
rate of growth.
Yeah, the rate of growth would slow down.
How can it go up higher though?
Why wouldn't it? We've got less new construction projects. We've got more people moving here. Like, we are just now getting started on millennials being able to afford homes. Like, it is about to get so insanely expensive. The median home price will double inside of 5 years. That's my prediction. And everyone's laughed at me, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're the same guys that laughed at me 2 years ago. You're not laughing now. The median home price will double in 5 years.
5 years
It'll be almost $600,000.
100% increase.
Yeah.
Over before. I mean, historically, 10 years-ish, on slow and maybe 15 years, prices double in good markets, right?
Median home price in Houston, Texas in 5 years will be damn close to $600,000.
How do you afford that, though?
You don't have to afford it. The people buying the house have to afford it.
Now, the people buying the house are investors.
California, New York, Florida.
True. Now,
Florida.
if that's true, their economy has got decimated. I think they had that kind of, and I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's all about the margins. So it's the marginal. Economists say it this way: price discovery happens at the margin, meaning at the tail end of. There's 100 houses in a neighborhood. 3 of those sell a year. 3% sell a year. It's not what the 97 houses are worth. It's what those 3 are worth. So those 3 on the margin, the ones that are responsible for the price discovery of the rest of the market. The reason a real estate crash is so dangerous is because price discovery then happens at not 3 houses, 5, 10, 15 houses, where you now have 15% of the properties on the market instead of 3. In other words, you have less buyers, more supply. That's more just for buyers, supply didn't change, right?
But that's what I'm worried about. The affordability problem comes.
I don't think it's an affordability problem. I really don't, because the affordability problem is dictated by those that are moving into this marketplace. So if you're in California, for example, in the Grob's system, I think you pay 15-20% more just in taxes to be there. So he can afford to pay, instead of those in taxes, he can pay that here. He can pay that home. So I think there's a lot more room to grow. I don't think a double in the median home price in 5 years is an unreasonable.
Everything that you're saying, though, is reason why, like, I'm so glad I own rentals. Because I can be accidentally lucky. Just like you're lucky that you've got your portfolio and it's doubled and you've got X million or whatever.
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't lucky because we predicted it years ago.
Okay, well, air quotes lucky, meaning you're luck by doing action. You have action and you have to.
Probably a better way to put it is, if I put it out there, we're going to manifest it. So one of the things that Tom and I used to talk about is, like, well, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm like, well, I don't give a shit about a crystal ball because I'm going to manifest what the future looks like. And this is what I believe the future to be. And I've not been wrong yet.
What about multifamily? You were pretty bearish on multifamily in 2019.
I was really bearish on multifamily until
2018.
All to about 2017 until something happened. Trump comes out and says the Federal Reserve is a bunch of morons and they're going to crash the economy. And I looked around and I was like, oh shit, rates are about to go through the floor. And that's exactly what happened. Once that happened, it was like, it's on. In fact, I'll tell you right now, the reason we want to get, I looked at cap rates. If you guys go to apartmentloanstore.com, you can look at cap rates in Houston. A value play in Houston is a 6 cap. That's a trashed out piece of crap property, is a 6 cap, and that's a decent deal. I don't think that's going to end anytime soon.
No, because we don't have inventory. We don't have housing
and
growth. And for some, there is the affordability issue. And it's like, I remember hearing Grant Cardone going on that. It was like a Bigger Pockets podcast back in 2012 when he was, I don't know when he got into multifamily, but I guess he was going.
He's been in real estate for 30 years. Like, Grant's like 60-something years old. Like,
and I was surprised on how old he is, but he made a big, at least...
A lot of TRT and HGH, bro. That'll keep you looking young.
Yeah. But I guess at least a PR push, he made a bigger push like that early, maybe it was 2020 or 2012 or so. And we're in apartment complexes all across the country, and like, I can imagine the windfall that he's enjoyed over the years.
Well, so
and what he's done, plenty of other people have done. He's just definitely more public about it.
Well, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that kind of show, like, you know, there is a real yield compression that happens at some point in the marketplace, and we're seeing that now, where, you know, making 6, 7, 8% cash on cash return in an apartment complex is good. And you're really banking on that back end when you sell it.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you're right. I think what's going to end up happening is the single-family inventory is going to get so tight, it's going to place pressure on rental properties because less people are going to afford houses. They're going to start renting. You're going to see cap rates stay the same, but you're going to see NOI go through the roof because rents keep going up. Like, that makes total sense. Where things get interesting is on the cost side, make-readies, taxes, insurance, all that other stuff. I can tell you for a fact, because I'm in these networks, there's big multifamily guys about to give back some properties because taxes are growing faster than leases. Like, your NOI gets crushed when your taxes go up 20%, right?
Yeah. I mean, your taxes and insurance, your holding costs will, when they exceed. So I talk about this in I have a slow flip strategy. Buy a property a year for 10 years. Well, this is versus the I'm going to go wholesale 50 houses a year.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about if you buy one house a year for 5 years, you're a millionaire. Do it for 10 years. I've got a whole plan. Do it for 10 years. But the slow flip comes years 6 through 10. Sell your weakest one, which probably is the one that appreciated the most.
That's right.
Crush your cash flow, but get a lot of equity. Take that money. Don't go buy the Lambo. Buy 2 properties. Replace it plus one more. Now you've grown your portfolio. It's an exponential way of growing the portfolio. It's a slow flip strategy. But yeah, that's what we did with that Sherling house. We bought it for $80,000.
What is that thing worth now?
I don't know.
2.25?
So this plays into what we're talking about. We sold it first weekend.
I'm gonna run the restroom. You start eating your sandwich. You want to take a break?
Yeah.
We're gonna take a lunch break. How's that sound?
This is a intermission.
Intermission.
Comments or anything? I gotta see what time I'm supposed to be on the other side of town here. I have Spring Branch after this.
I gotta be in Sugar Land.
That'll be a fun drive.
Yeah, let's see what it's like.
$1433 North Shepherd. Come out.
What's that?
One of the agents on the team. It's got a small networking event over there. It's at the Heights Beer Garten, so it looks like I'm having a brisky.
That's a fun place.
It is? I've never been. I'm not really a Heights kind of guy.
I lived in the Heights for about a year. I'm not a Heights guy. I think this game is at 5 o'clock. I am probably not going to make it. You know what? I'll go with you to that thing because there's no way I'm going to make this thing.
Starts at 6.
Well, let's do that then. Let me send.
Head out? Yep, okay.
No, I'm not. I won't make it in time.
Yeah, how many houses would you buy if you can get them for 80,000 Sugarland?
Dude, like north of, where did I buy that first one at wholesale? North of 90? I can't remember the name of that neighborhood. It's in Sugarland. It's 77. It's not 479. It's not 478. It's inside of 6, right there near 90. There was that whole neighborhood.
Well, Settlers Way is where I got mine.
Well, you were buying stuff for 80 in Settlers Way?
Settlers Way.
At 6 south of 50. Holy shit.
Look, it was the first weekend. 237, 227 cash. I thought it was owner occupant. I don't.
Oh, that's what agents going in and buying all that down there.
This is 2015.
Yeah.
2014.
Yeah. You used to go in and buy. It's that Lake something. They have 2 twos in there. You used to be able to go and buy those all. Actually, down the street from you guys in Terra. You could tear Terra up for like 70 grand a tour.
It'd be challenging today to get that. But the one thing with Terra, they probably cash flow very well-ish.
Not anymore. What's 200 grand in Terra?
That's the thing is, Terra, I'm sure they've enjoyed quite a bit of appreciation, but in comparison to other neighborhoods, they haven't really appreciated as much as
I agree with that.
It's almost like you've got great wood, and you've got like the redheaded stepchild.
That's exactly what Terra. It's because they have a different elementary school.
And you'd think it would mature, it'd grow up, it'd become an adult, and like, it hasn't really. And that's shocking to me. But part of me wonders, so we went through 2008,
what's the event at? What's the event over there? It's just the realtor, in the EXP downline?
Yeah, he's one of Alex's agents. And his name's Wally. I don't know how long he's had his license, but he's almost capped. And he was talking to me about Icon, because he's pushing hard to get Icon. And the dude's crushing it. And he's also,
Really?
he's I don't know if he's doing investing, but he's definitely interested in investing. But he's got a little small meetup, and he asked me to come and talk about finding deals. So Jackson, if you just call me, obviously I can't pick up the phone right now.
Getting private client phone calls from Chase. I'm like, I don't care, man.
He actually was an indie broker. He just joined EXP under a different team, and he's reaching out.
There you go. I don't know what. Let me put it this way. Things were weird on Facebook for about a year. I put one post on Facebook and got almost 200 shares. So,
Then or today?
3 days ago,
Okay.
maybe it was 150.
But shares, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
What was
that
the
lumber post? Everybody started sharing it, but the fact that they actually
Was this the building the deck?
Yeah,
I saw that. I don't know if it was from you. I think I saw it
Yes.
on LinkedIn.
probably. I stole it from somebody, and then I posted it. It went bananas, and I'm like, just the fact that many people saw it was a good thing. Like I'm like,
Yeah, it's massive. That was like last year. It cost $1,000 to build 200 square feet. Now it's like 3,500.
yeah,
Imagine what that is for a single-family house. But it's not just lumber; it's plastics.
it's everything.
It's
The labor
your
is
electrical.
constantly-
It's like if you can create your own inventory, whether it's investments because you're buying stuff that no one else wants, or you're buying land and putting mobile homes or small starter homes on them. It's where the money's at.
So I'll tell you, I've been enamored with the small house thing, the tiny house deal. And we're actually under contract to buy a property that's got one on there. And this is one of those like Home Depot jobs. Looks like a little like cabin with a deck on the front and a front door. And they're renting that for $800 a month. You know, what is it? 125 square feet? So we're looking at that model. We could buy 10 of those. We actually have a project up in, I won't say where it's at, where we can add additional units. I'm like, could we put 10 of those things out there? So, we'll see.
I saw in my aunt was like, "Hey, are there any good Airbnbs in Fredericksburg?" Pull it up real quick. There's a teepee.
Oh, I've seen the TV before.
A legit, and they spelled it wrong, or maybe that's just their branding, but a legit teepee, and I don't know what they were going for, $80 a night or whatever. I'm like, we've got cowhide and some sticks next to a pond in Texas with cactus for $80 a night. Not bad.
I love it, man.
So those tiny homes, do you think you can get, because we still have that lot in Galveston. Do you think you can get those in windstorm rated and put them on blocks?
That's tough, because you got to get windstorm rated, then you got to tie them down, right?
Well, the tying them down seems the easy part. It's getting them windstorm rated.
It's going to be the roof, the windows, and the site. I don't know. But you know what? I bet if you get the specs, all the manufacturer, then you bring it down there, hand it to the...
Because Clayton Homes wants to sell more, so they've created products where it's FHA rated and all that. So that, I guess ultimately that's the question. If I can get one that's windstorm rated, I go put one on sticks, tie it down, and I've got an Airbnb. Otherwise, I'm gonna build.
I'm dealing with this windstorm stuff down in Surfside. It's like, I mean, it's 3 times more expensive, but you know, I get it. It's not, let me put it this way, it's not like historic district. Like historic district's a whole nother animal, right? So as long as you're not in a historic district in Galveston.
Not there.
It's more, what do you call that, on the roofing? It's got that nail with that disc on it. It's like more of those to the corner,
Yeah.
different window.
Because the previous owner put a brand new roof on it. No, not windstorm.
Which I'm amazed, like, when they get away with that. I'm like, how the...
Well, I was just,
They use the water from here. Like, what are you doing?
they just did it and did it before anyone saw them. But we ended up tearing it down anyway because the roof was the most valuable part of the whole structure.
Oh, it's funny.
And we thought we could repair it. And when the bid came back, it was like $75,000 for 650 square feet. And I'm like, just build. So we tore it down. Really, I wish I didn't buy it, 'cause we're not a builder, but on the flip side, I know when we eventually get whatever we get on there, it's going to be nice, and I'm probably going to want to stay there. It's right in between the ship channel and the surf, like smack in the middle. You look at the neighbors, a little ghetto, but so there's a lot of Airbnbs in Galveston, and they do really well. Do you do any arbitrage?
Explain to me what arbitrage in real estate means.
The whole master lease thing with Airbnb?
No, we've done it with, we've been the master lease or, right? And we've had like, where we've leased to folks doing Airbnb, probably a better way to put it. I've never done the opposite, because the only reason we do Airbnb is to hold on to a more expensive asset longer.
Correct.
Because the only way to cash flow is Airbnb.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't do an Airbnb arbitrage unless I had an option to buy the underlying asset.
That's
Because otherwise
McDonald's.
it's not worth it.
It's the McDonald's plan.
Yeah.
Most expensive real estate in the world. Find a way to make money. Sell hamburgers on it.
Yeah, but McDonald's owns it. They own the land, right? I mean, it's like, so.
Well, yeah, but that's what you're talking about. You're talking about buying the land.
Oh, yeah. Or at least have an option. Like, I do a master. I would do Airbnb arbitrage, like I said, if I did a lease option on it, which I think is the only appropriate place lease options are for like commercial purposes. I don't think lease option makes a lot of sense for consumers, but that's how I do it. I'd lease option on, hey, give me an option for 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and I'll pay you this lease rate as an Airbnb, because then you can take advantage of the upside.
Yeah. Assuming they didn't build that in, but you're probably dealing with people who probably don't have that.
Let me put it this way. Landlords who are willing to do a lease option or a master lease Airbnb arbitrage are probably okay with that option. You just got to pick the option. You just got to explain the option. Right? Most landlords suck at being landlords.
Those are the best deals, though, right?
They are the best deals.
They're inherited properties that were rentals that went to junk, or couldn't sell their house, so they rented it out. They haven't checked it in 7 years.
Yeah.
Now the tenant's not paying, and it's a trash house.
And it's free and clear.
And it's free clear or very low mortgage. It's the best deals.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The problem, though, with Airbnb buying it is if you buy it because Airbnb is the only exit.
Oh, don't buy the air. Yeah. We don't buy properties that Airbnb is the exit.
But typically, if you're buying the nicer areas, it's not going to cash flow long term to cover the mortgage.
Maybe. So, like, I bought 4 units on one lot in Surfside. I paid $280, and I put like $80,000 down. Let's call it, I put $80,000 down. Maybe the mortgage is $200,000. Each one of those units, we actually split to long-term rentals because we're renting it $1,400 a unit. So I'm Airbnb the efficiency, and the other 3 at $1,400 a month.
Solid.
It's like a lot of it is just weight.
I guess what I'm talking about is, so a buddy of mine is in.
$500,000 house, we're still right.
Yeah. So a buddy of mine, they do a lot of Airbnbs, and he works with investors in Destin.
Oh yeah.
And he's flipping a house now. I think he bought it for $700-800. It's probably worth 1.5-ish, maybe a little bit less. I think it's an 8-unit, but I think it's more of an Airbnb play. I mean, no, he's not going to hold it. When COVID happened, I remember this lady in our mastermind. She had about 100 Airbnbs from Jersey Shore all the way down, and I can only imagine, because Jersey's been very restrictive, also hit hard with COVID, and I can only imagine what that did to the bottom line there. Because when you buy, and that's the only exit, and COVID's an anomaly, you can't predict that. But what's not an anomaly is Airbnb is an arbitrage of humanity at scale. So every single person is now a competitor, a potential competitor. Today it's less, tomorrow it'll be more, 2 years from now it'll be more. Who knows, maybe 15 years from now we get to a point where no one owns anything except for investors, and we all just co-rent space for 6 months, 18 months, even the Grant Cardone life where you don't own anything except for your own investments.
So there's a real possibility that the top 40 to 30, maybe 30 to 40% of homeowners actually own their home. And the bottom 60 to 70 all rent. That is a total possibility this generation.
What is it now, 65?
I think so. Let me look at home ownership rate. It's probably 65%. I could see that reversing.
I'm not keto today.
Yeah, 67%.
And that's still a little bit on the high over the last 10 years, right?
Yeah, because it got low right after the crash. Oh, this is from Texas.
The lowest is probably 2012, 2014.
No, the lowest was 1992 at 58%.
92. I guess we had the 88 crash.
Yeah, in 2016 was actually the lowest after the crash. It got down to 61%.
Okay. So in 1990, interest rates were what, 8.5%? 10%?
You'd have to look.
I remember buying a Subject 2 in San Antonio, 2005, and his mortgage was 8.5 or 9.5. I guess we got 9 minutes left.
Okay.
How do you see NFTs playing out in real estate?
I think you could use, so let's talk about what an NFT is, because I don't think most people know. It's a non-fungible token.
And I barely know.
So it's a
GIF, some digital.
It's a cryptocurrency that each bit is different. It's probably the best way to put it. So it's kind of like saying, I have $1 here, you have $1, but they're not equivalent worth because your dollar is a special dollar based off this serial number, mine's a different serial number.
Well, it's the Mickey Mantle rookie card.
Right.
Mine's in mint condition. Yours has got a slight bend on the top right corner.
Right. So yours is worth more than mine, right? I think NFTs make a lot of sense in title. So I've said this for a long time, and I said, look, blockchain will eventually replace title companies. Anytime you have to review a chain of custody, that is where blockchain will step in. I think it's going to happen.
It's funny you say that. I've been trying to piece this in my head for a while. I get that blockchain, NFTs, game changing, world changing. There's a lot of places that just are going away because of it. How does it actually tie in? Title companies are blockchain.
They're
archaic.
Yeah.
It's caveman blockchain.
That's right. The next generation, it'll take 50 years for it to change because title's so archaic.
I don't know about 50, but
it will. Well, it'll start with the new neighborhoods. Where they're like, what do we need a title policy for if I can accurately?
It could be state. I mean, title's state driven, right?
It is, but it's you got to remember it's the trend. Like it's got to go from. Dude, there are title companies that still use microfiche. Like in rural counties, even in Corpus Christi, they still use microfiche to go and look up records for each. So there are a lot of title companies that are not even digital, and rural still makes up a lot of this land in the United States.
It seems once you can get blockchain, I wonder if you could retroactively blockchain title.
There's probably somebody that's going to figure that out.
Like, so if you retroactively, boom, you change it overnight.
Yeah, it's like it all comes down to blockchain. When you really get down to blockchain, it's an instantaneous way to verify the chain of custody. That's really what blockchain is.
It's permanent, public display, can't be changed, always there.
Here's the problem with a lot of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is one. It's a depreciating asset. A lot of people don't realize this. If Bitcoin and a lot of these cryptocurrencies values stay static, there's a cost to owning it, and it's a cost to maintain the chain of custody. So there's still going to be a cost associated with blockchain technology because somebody has to maintain that chain of custody in the database.
The mining. So you're talking about mining.
Right.
But there's also a finite number.
It doesn't matter. Well, that cost that comes from somewhere.
Correct.
The miners have to be paid. The guys who maintain the database have to be paid.
But is that not also supply and demand? So less miners, well, they're just going to be paid more.
Well,
I mean, it's the same with banks, right? Because
let's take it back to real estate.
Because if 50% of banks go out of business, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, I mean, your monthly fees for your bank account are probably going to go up a little bit because they can.
So maybe a better way to put it is, even though you own a piece of real estate free and clear, it still needs a roof, HVAC, flooring, paint. It still needs maintenance.
Yeah.
Blockchain requires maintenance. Now, in sovereign currencies like the US dollar, the maintenance is paid by the taxpayer. Right? I mean, our money has to go back, we got to shred it, print more. So there's costs inherently in currency. There's no perfect system. To go back to your original question, I think NFTs are going to make a lot of sense in chain custody transactions like cars and boats and planes and real estate and any of those things that are unique.
What I like is unique properties that could be sold with royalties.
Oh, yeah.
So I saw like Brandon Turner, he's got a Nirvana house, Kurt Cobain house up in Washington.
No shit, he's got Kurt's original house?
I think it's the house when he was a kid and he grew up in. He's had it for real for years.
That's still cool.
So he finally put it up for sale, and I'm thinking like...
I would turn that to a historical marker and just...
Well, but I'm thinking that's an NFT. Like, totally I would sell it, you get an NFT, and then I get 20% every time this is sold forever. I'm good. Check.
We're good.
Yeah. But yeah, I would.
You get blown up too.
This is the next meeting.
Did you say that's over at the Heights Beer Garden, or are you going somewhere else?
No, that's it.
Thanks for the beers.
My pleasure.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
But yeah, maybe we'll talk about that more next time. I've been trying to wrap my head around it. Bought my first crypto 1E. I made fun of crypto for a long time. I don't understand it. I guess I've kind of subscribed to the Warren Buffett. If you don't understand it, don't invest in it.
Well, let me put it this way. A lot of people ask me, why don't you talk about it? And I'm like, here's what I tell folks. Until your net worth gets to a certain point where it's important, you need to be buying single-family houses. It's great for... Actually, I have investors say, Jason, you know a lot about surety.
You got all the glasses up here?
I'm done, yeah.
You got the glasses?
Oh, I'm good.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next month.
Next month, don't have the date and time yet. Follow us, The Real Estate Experience, on Facebook pages, Facebook group, and all your favorite platforms.
All your favorite.
You guys over here doing a podcast?
Yeah.
It's like the second one today.
Third one.
Just camera right here.
All right, I'm going to hit the head, and then I'm going to